G'day guys, Seeney here and welcome to another episode on the Australian Wealth Channel. And today we're going to be talking about what you need to do to make sure that you don't get crushed by inflation. So over the last year or so, there's been a lot of talk about inflation and how this could potentially have a really negative effect on the economies all around the world. Now, the thing is, the US government in particular has printed more than 22 to 23% of the entire money supply that's in existence this last year. So there's a lot of potential fears around inflation there. And of course, governments all around the world, not just the US, Australia, all through the EU have printed a lot of money to keep economies afloat while they've been shut down. So we're going to talk about what you need to do to be able to actually avoid this so that you're not just losing purchasing power. So I think it's really important that we start with what inflation actually is. So inflation is the decline of purchasing power of a given currency over time. And this is something that we've seen for a very long period in time. You know, if you talk to your parents or you talk to your grandparents, they'll tell you stories about how you used to be able to get milk and bread for under $1. You know, it was just a few cents, but now obviously that has changed dramatically. And over time, you know, there's been inflation. Now, inflation is not necessarily a bad thing. It's only a problem when it really starts to run away. So most of the banks and reserve banks around the world try to target inflation around 2%. Just get a little bit of inflation each year. However, you run into problems when you start printing insane amounts of money to get yourself out of, say, a debt problem or something like that. And it can completely run away from you in the case of, say, Venezuela, for example, where they tried to print their way out of it, or Zimbabwe, where people were having to take wheelbarrow loads of cash down to the shops to go and buy goods because the currency just ran away and it was crazy. So this is something where there's a little bit of fear in the West that this is something that could occur. So there's a couple of different indexes that are used to measure inflation. Now, the most commonly used one is the Consumer Price Index, CPI, and there's also the Wholesale Price Index. So the Consumer Price Index is made up of a basket of different things. So this includes the prices of food, housing, apparel, transportation, medical care, recreation, and education, all weighted in different sort of amounts. So as the cost of these goods go up, then, you know, that's obviously an increase in inflation. So inflation in 2020 in Australia was about 0.75%. So it was really low. It was much lower than what they were targeting. And that's, of course, because no one could actually go out and spend their money. In the US, however, the projected inflation rate for this coming year that we're in now, once we get to the end of the year and we have all the data, is estimated to be 2.26%. So that's above the guide, but of course the Reserve Bank over there wants to have a little bit higher inflation rate compared to what they had previously, because in the past, inflation has been quite low. But you see, the problem with the Consumer Price Index is it doesn't actually take into account a lot of other things that have gone up drastically in value, especially over this last year. So we're talking about things like lumber, computer chips, copper, lead. All of the prices of the commodities have gone up dramatically. And this has really been missed. So a lot of people have actually seen inflation, but it's not coming out in the data because of the way it's been measured. So this is obviously due to supply shortages, less workers being able to work at factories, refineries, whatever it is that the goods are being produced. And of course, the difficulty of transporting these goods during the current issue. So the real question is this just an artificial shortage, or is this going to be a sustained thing where we see prices continue to increase? You know, businesses go, oh, well, people are willing to pay this price for the goods. I guess we'll keep the price up here, even when supply comes back. You know, so there's a bit of debate about whether that's going to happen. We'll have to wait and see. So one thing's for sure, year after year, people's purchasing power is getting diminished. Their dollar is not going as far. If you go back 10 years, the purchasing power of a dollar was so much better than what it is today. And that is only going to continue over time. So the real question is, how do you avoid this? How do you stop your wealth from getting eroded away? So it's really simple. What you need to be doing is you need to be holding things that have value that aren't cash, because it gets printed more and more every single year, as we have seen. So Obviously, money is just one form of value. There's many forms of value in this world, and you need to be holding things that have value which aren't money. So that's things like assets. So businesses that produce things, real estate, all of these things will rise with inflation because the amount of value a house has obviously isn't so much dependent on what the money supply is doing. It's more dependent on the needs of people in this world. So as things become more expensive, obviously the price of real estate is going to continue to go up. And of course, businesses are also going to increase their prices as the cost of goods for them is going to become more expensive. So to compensate for that, they're also going to have to raise their prices. So it seems to me that the market knows that there's going to be an increase in inflation. You know, we've seen such a rise in asset values, and of course in real estate as well. Pretty much any asset that you can think of, any asset class, we've seen a massive increase in. So I think a lot of this inflation people have seen coming and have started to price that in and get rid of cash and put it into things that have value. And that's because people that have money know that this is the way the game needs to be played. The people that are going to lose in this situation are the ones that only hold cash because it's diminishing in value over time. It's becoming less and less valuable. And they're the people that are going to lose, are the ones that hold mostly just cash and are seeing their real purchasing power get eroded away. So the best way to avoid this is to actually go and get assets. You know, whether that be a basket of companies, like if you buy yourself an index fund that tracks the top 200 companies in Australia or tracks the top 500 companies in the US, there's a lot of different ways that you can transfer your money from actual cash into something of value which is going to appreciate over time, regardless of what is happening with the money supply. So I think there's a lot of people that are going to be caught short during this period if inflation does actually come when the economy starts to boom again. You know, I personally think we're going to see a fair bit of it. And a lot of people have different ideas of what to do to compensate for this. Some people have decided that Bitcoin is the way to go because, you know, there's a limited supply. So obviously if there's a limited supply of Bitcoin and a lot of people want to buy it, then that's going to increase the price of that. But there's also a lot of other ways, and I personally believe that assets are the way to go. I'm all about real tangible value. So businesses that are producing things and real estate where people, you know, need a place to live. So all those kind of things, but you know, whatever works for you to make sure that you don't get caught short during this period. So thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Seeney. Please make sure you like and subscribe to the video. Really helps to get these videos out to more people. And you know, we're going to be making a few more videos. It's been a little while since I've got to one because I've been flat out working. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you later.